Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Hunter Cheney. I'm one of the directors here at the American Heritage Museum. Again, I'm here with President Rob Collins and pilot Heather Penny. And yay, a big round of applause for our pilots here. There we go. All right, so Rob and Heather, tell us a little bit about what we're going to see today.
Okay, so Waco UIC behind me is a cabin aircraft that was built in the 1930s as like a private executive transport. This particular one was at John Rogers Field on Oahu, and on December 7th, 1941, it was being flown by a pilot by the name of Bob Tice. He owned the KT flying service. And upon landing, he was running away from the aircraft towards a hangar, and a Japanese aircraft strafed the field and killed him, and he became the first American civilian casualty of the attack. Couple that with in the museum, if you see the P-40 Warhawk there, that is also a P-40 that was at Wheeler Field on Oahu on December 7th, and the only fighter aircraft left today that survived from the attack. So those are two very remarkable sides of the story. It was not only attack on military bases, but it was also attack on civilian assets. And in fact, I think there were like 7 civilian aircraft shot down because it was a beautiful Sunday morning, kind of like today, and a lot of people were up flying. And KT Flying Service was well known for training all these Navy sailors that were in port that wanted to learn how to fly. And in fact, one of the instructors there was a woman by the name of Cornelia Fort. And Cornelia had an amazing story, and Heather probably knows all about her and can tell you a lot about her. But her dad made her brother, the father's son, swear he would never learn how to fly. But he never made Cornelia promise she would never learn how to fly. And she did, which was quite unusual in that era. And there were these women Air Force service pilots during the war. I'm going to let Heather talk a lot more about those here in a minute, because they were a truly remarkable group of aviators.
So Cornelia, later, she was a flight instructor, and she was instructing on December 7th. So if you've seen the movie Tora, 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 when the Japanese Zeros come Zorchin down to go attack that civilian trainer, and you see the woman in the cockpit, she is meant to represent Cornelia Fort. So Cornelia Fort then raised her hand and said, I'd like to become a woman Air Force service pilot, and went through training with the other WASPs, just like every military male pilot did. So the training that the ladies went through was the exact same training that the men went through. And these WASPs went on to serve in every kind of flight job that there was, from instruction to target towing to flight test to maintenance test to ferrying. They did it all. The only thing they didn't do was go to combat. Cornelia, however, was one of 37 WASP who lost their lives in the course of service doing her flying duties. And because the WASP were not recognized as official military members, it was an experiment to see whether or not women could actually do that. When these women died, there were no benefits to their survivors. Some of these women had children. There were no benefits. There was nothing that the military or the government did to return their bodies back to their families. And so the WASP would gather together and raise money from their own, and then accompany the body via train to take that body back home to honor their fellow WASP. But because of what they did, they then set the course for women to be able to enter military aviation. First in 1977, when women were allowed to fly non-combat missions like airlift and so forth, and then in 1993 when Congress removed the combat restriction against women in combat aviation, and that's one of the things that allowed me to become a fighter pilot.
And another part of Cornelia Fort that's quite interesting is she became the first woman aviator killed in the line of duty. There were 38 WASP that died in the line of duty during World War II. So even test flying these aircraft, moving them around the country, think about what they had at that time. When you're flying a Stearman around the country, this is not an airplane designed to fly in bad weather in the clouds and everything like that. They had to, and they were flying them day in, day out in very hard conditions. And that freed up a lot of the men who would have been doing that job to fly in combat, and that was the whole concept. The next plane we have down here is another extremely important aircraft. It is a PT-17 Stearman. This particular Stearman was built in 1940, so it's a very early production of what the aircraft that was the primary trainer for World War II. So almost every single pilot that learned how to fly during World War II had their primary training in this type of aircraft. The museum is very fortunate that we have a few different Stearmans. We have one that is inside the hangar right now. We have another one under restoration out in Ohio, which is an original Wasp aircraft. And then this one also is an incredible history because this is an original Tuskegee aircraft. So this was based at Tuskegee Moton Field in Alabama and trained the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II for quite some time. And just, this is a very new, you're the first people ever to see this airplane fly here because it just arrived on 9/11 and Heather brought it in that day.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then the next thing, I think this is going to be pretty special. We have the L5 Sentinel, which is says U.S. Navy on the tail, and the German Fieseler Storch. Both of these aircraft were designed to be observation liaison aircraft. They have some different ways they go about doing things. The Storch was absolutely known for its short field takeoff and landing ability and slow flight. And when you see Heather flying that airplane today, it's nothing short of amazing. To contrast that to the American design, the L5, we're going to be flying them together. And you'll see the takeoff roll of one versus the other. I'm under a lot of pressure here because she's amazing in that Storch, and she's gonna make it look really easy, but I'm gonna try to hold my own in the L5. And then finally, we'll have the AT-6 Texan. So we'll be leapfrogging on down, anxious to get started. I'm gonna jump in the Waco and get going.
Yeah, great. Good. So Heather, let's talk about the Waco first. Have you flown the Waco?
I've not flown this Waco, but I've flown the other Waco that you saw in the hangar, that dark blue and cream pinstriped Waco. And they fly very similar, although you'll see the cabin Waco obviously has more inertia because it has more mass, and it also has more fuselage, so it's going to be more sensitive to crosswinds. The Waco, because of its design, is really a more exquisite kind of aircraft. It's more complex structurally, mechanically. You can see that it has 4 ailerons as opposed to the Stearman's 2 ailerons, and those ailerons are balanced. It has very nice handling qualities. It's a straightforward aircraft. It's very responsive, and it's, as I said, balanced not only in the ailerons, so they're fairly frictionless, but also within their pitch. So you have a nice stick force as you're flying that around. It's really got a wheel, though, because again, this is sort of a transition from early aircraft in the 1920s to more modern types of aircraft. So you'll see that it looks like what an airplane is supposed to look like, and that's because in the 1930s you were making this transition away from the Bolerios, away from the fighters that you think of with World War I, and away from rotary engines and towards radial engines. As an executive transport, it was very comfortable to fly in. A lot of passenger aircraft in the late 1920s and the 1930s were actually open cockpits, so you bought your ticket, you might have been sitting on a bag of mail, and you were subjected to 100-mile-an-hour winds. So you can see the major advantage of flying in the comfort of flying in an aircraft like the Waco.
So Heather, tell us, why would you warm up an aircraft engine like this ahead of flying? Is it to get the oil through the engine?
I'm going to move away from the aircraft engine, so hopefully you can continue to hear me.
Have a pull out. We get a little air conditioning on the way.
So we do warm up the engine in order to be able to get the oil evenly distributed throughout the engine. The radial engine, as you can see on the Stearman behind me, and also as a Waco taxis away, is in a circle. So some of the cylinders on the top, some of the cylinders are on the bottom. And the oil, when it's been sitting, drains to the cylinders on the bottom. The oil might not have any place to go. So you saw us earlier pulling the propellers through. We pull the propellers through to be able to move the pistons manually and see whether or not there's any oil left in the pistons. Because as you may know, air is compressible, but fluids are not. And so if we were to do a start on an engine that had oil in those bottom cylinders, we could bend a rod, and that would be mechanically bad. But we also want to get everything up to temperature so that the oil runs smoothly and lubricates all the parts and pieces that are moving. You might hear people say, well, a radial engine, if there's not oil everywhere, you better check to see whether or not you got oil in the engine. But I will tell you that the way that we maintain these aircraft, they're very dry.
This particular aircraft has a 210 horsepower Continental R, looks like a R670. Mm-hmm. And so the empty weight of this plane is usually around 1,600 pounds. You can take a maximum weight of 2,800 pounds in this aircraft. The top speed, Heather, you think about 140, pushing that around
130, but that's top speed going straight down. What you're doing when you actually cruise is you're going to set your RPM, and you're going to take whatever airspeed the aircraft gives you. As a biplane with the struts, it's very draggy, so that horsepower really helps it more in climb. It's not going to really make it go any faster. Let's take a break, and they're getting ready to do their run-up. They're going to check the health of their magnetos, and then let's take a break and watch them take off.
Great.
You can hear that engine wind up, and here we go. So you can see he's already got the tail up, and now he's just waiting for enough airspeed to get over the wings. Nothing like the sound of a round engine.
That's right. Now remember, folks, that this aircraft was operated by the first American casualty of World War II, Bob Tice. It's part of K&T Flying Service.
That's one of the reasons why it's such an honor to be able to have that aircraft here at the American Heritage Museum. One thing that's really unique about the museum that you have here is that Rob and the staff have really done the best that they can to find aircraft that have genuine provenance. They were there. They were witnesses. They hold the memory of the airmen, the soldiers, sailors, Marines who actually went and did the job. And as we lose our veterans over the course of the years, these aircraft, these tanks, these machines will be the last who actually remember and can tell their stories.
So again, after creating K&T Flying Service in 1934, Bob Tice became personally responsible for training large number of civilian pilots in the Pacific for primary training. They used Piper J3 Cubs and 3 Fleet biplanes. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
So Rob will do a couple demonstration turns for us so we can see the maneuverability of the aircraft. Again, the Wacos were known for their handling characteristics. Sportsmen love to fly them. Now, we mentioned that this is a Waco UIC, and Wacos have a lot of different designations, but they are all 3 letters. The first letter refers to the engine, the second letter refers to the specific type, often the wing type, and the final letter, the third letter, refers to the series. So in this U1C, the C refers to that cabin Waco. just a beautiful aircraft and a smoothly running aircraft, and you can see how nimble it is as it turns, and how comfortable it'd be if you were in the 1930s flying and taking a scenic tour over the Hawaiian Islands.
Heather, it looks like it's by the bi-wing design makes it a really sharp turner, but I would imagine that with that extra surface that it slows down quite a bit when you're turning.
So a lot of that really has to do with the drag. So it's not just that you've got two wings, it does improve your lift, but you have all of the trusses and the struts which cause additional drag. And so as you turn and you reorient your lift vector, what actually allows you to rate your nose across the horizon and make that turn is pulling back on the stick. And that's where you're really going to feel a lot of the drag. Hopefully we'll get to see Rob come in here from right to left and do a go around.
Great. I can hear the plane coming around, so keep your eyes to that far pine tree, and we're going to come winding around that. Here he comes.
So he's spotting out the landing, he's looking at that, and he may do a go around.
There he goes. Excellent. Great. Very nice. Rob's going to bring that around. He's going to land. Heather's getting in the Stearman. Get ready to take off. So the story goes that on December 7th, 1941, Bob Tice was near his Piper J3 Cubs, and this very Waco at John Rogers Airfield when he was strafed by two Zeros en route to Hickam Field. His death was the result of a single Japanese round to the neck. Well, unfortunately, the bullet tore open his carotid artery, and his wife, Edna, a trained nurse, was unable to stop the bleeding, and he died there on the airfield. So, in essence, Bob Tice really became the first casualty of, American casualty of World War II through this incident. So here he comes, he's going to be landing. And I have to tell you, flying in these planes, the approach looks a lot smaller than it is.
It looks like a little bit airport.
It does. There he goes. Nice landing. Big round of applause for Rob's landing. That was excellent. I don't know if you were able to catch the earlier presentation, but we have a son of a Tuskegee Airman, Mr. Bob Shepard here. So if you have a chance, say hello to Bob while he's here. I don't see him somewhere, but he'll be hanging around. Interesting. What's that, Caroline? Oh, great. He's in the mule. So Bob's right over there. If you have a chance, go say hello to Bob. Wonderful gentleman, and his father did some amazing things with the Tuskegees. I'm going to walk out here to meet up with Rob while Heather's getting ready to take off. So again, that particular PT-17 Stearman originally trained Tuskegee Airmen. Very rare aircraft. There's only a few original training aircraft that came out of Tuskegee Airfield, and that's one of them. Happens to be one of the most beautiful aircraft I've ever seen. The paint job on it is just beautiful and beautifully restored. Rob, how's the wind out there?
Oh, it's not bad. It's a beautiful day. A little cloudy right now, but it was nice to get up and fly, and I'm really looking forward to flying the L5 in a minute.
Great. Let's see here. There we go. Thanks, Rob. Yeah. All right. Rob's going to hop in the Sentinel in just a sec. Rob, how long did it take for Heather and Doug to fly up? They flew this Stearman up from Washington, D.C., right?
It came up from New Jersey, from Millville, New Jersey, right outside. It was a gentleman down there who owned the aircraft and had it for quite a long time. Took beautiful care of the airplane. It's absolutely gorgeous. But it's really the history of this aircraft that is so important. The one thing we don't know about it is who learned to fly in it yet, because there are no military records that would show the individual aviators. So it really comes down to if you get lucky enough to find a Tuskegee Airman's logbook and can see if he was training in this airplane.
That flew in this specific airplane.
That's right. Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, all World War II aircraft in the United States had some serial numbers on them, right?
Yes, absolutely. Air Force referred to them as serial numbers. Navy was bureau numbers.
Yeah.
And there's history cards of every aircraft of where they were assigned to. So we know exactly when this airplane went to Moton Field in Tuskegee, Alabama. And if you were listening to the presentation this morning from Bob Shepard, he said one of the myths was they would always get the most clapped out, old airplanes there were. In the case of this airplane, it was a clapped out old airplane by the time it went to Tuskegee. It was a 1940 production. I think they got in like 43. And those are some hard hours in training. We also have a Fairchild PT-19, which is completing a restoration in Sweden right now. That is an original Tuskegee aircraft, and it's the only known PT-19 that flew with the Tuskegee Airmen. And that one was brand new when it was flown there. So it was all over the place. And the irony is, it was a brand new airplane when it went there. It was probably flown by a WASP pilot delivering it.
Right.
And then it went right out of the military afterwards. So it's a really remarkable history.
There's nothing quite like an open cockpit aircraft. Very exciting to fly in these planes. Stable aircraft, somewhat easy to fly.
Well, actually, the methodology of training aircraft during World War II was make them more difficult to fly. So a pilot would start out predominantly in a plane like this, in a Stearman, then would go to, if they were going the fighter route, the AT-6 Texan, the last airplane we're going to fly, and then straight into the fighter airplane that they were going to fly combat in. To say it's a P-51 Mustang, we always joke around that the easiest airplane to fly of those is the P-51, then the T-6, then the Stearman. They built in some characteristics to make them basically washout pilots. We had so much time that we needed to train pilots during the war. We built over 100,000 aircraft, but at the same time you need to train all of those air crews, whether it was pilots, navigators, gunners, and so forth. And most people wanted to be a pilot, but we needed a lot of bombardiers and navigators. So if you weren't getting it really quickly, congratulations, son, you're going to be a bombardier or navigator. And they would wash you out pretty fast. Now there's a gentleman I see that just arrived over here. You can see him by that golf cart. He could tell you a lot. In fact, after this is over, he's going to be giving a presentation because his name is Colonel Joe Peterburs, and he was a Mustang fighter pilot during World War II, so he would have trained in a Stearman just like this, and then an AT-6 Texan in all likelihood, and then he would have been, Joe, were you 19 years old when you were flying Mustangs over Europe? So he was a young 19-year-old at the end of the war, and his story is absolutely incredible because he shot down an Me-262, which was the first operational jet fighter, and that was a good 100 miles an hour faster than the Mustang he was flying. So that was an extraordinary accomplishment during the war. And not only was it a jet, a much superior aircraft, but it was not an inexperienced pilot that was flying that airplane. The pilot's name was Walter Shook, and he had over 200 victories. So he was one of the highest scoring aces of all time. So please, after this is over, make sure you go inside to hear Colonel Peterburs. We're absolutely honored to have him here today.
Here's Heather coming around the pine trees here. She's going to be doing a flyby, check the airfield. Airstrip looks clear. She's going to bring it up around and probably touch down. Meanwhile, Rob's getting in the Sentinel, also known as the OY-1 from the Navy. He's going to get that up and running. You'll start to hear Heather back off of the throttle a little bit, reduce her airspeed, and bring it right around the pine tree for a landing.
Look. Oh, excuse me.
Here she comes. Really nice shot with the gray clouds in the background. That yellow really sticks out. Coming in, she's watching her airspeed, focusing right on the airfield, pulling back a little bit on the stick, and just kissing it. Big round of applause for Heather. Another great landing. And this plane is just beautifully restored. Stearmans really are one of my favorite aircraft. They are the quintessential early World War II aircraft that I just love. So she's going to bring that around.
We're going to fly these together.
Okay. So Rob just let me know that you're gonna fly. Okay, perfect. This is a wonderful flight exhibition coming up. So I'll explain that to you as soon as we pull through. Stop, Heather. There we go. Fortunately, it's not too bad. Little rub, but she's all right. Well done, Heather. So the two aircraft coming up are what we call STOL aircraft. It's an acronym for short takeoff and landing. These two planes are probably the epitome of that type of aircraft. Both of these aircraft have a cruising speed of about, they go about 40 miles an hour or so. They've got a top speeds of about 120, somewhere around there. But these aircraft were designed primarily to be slow-flying aircraft that you could hang in the air for observation. This particular aircraft, the OY-1, this aircraft was in the Battle of Okinawa and was used as a medical transport. Well done, Heather. So during World War II, the Stinson OY-1, and the Army designation is also known as the L-5 Sentinel, played a crucial role as a versatile liaison and observation aircraft. It's known for its reliability, ruggedness, and remarkable performance. The Sentinel became a valuable asset for the U.S. Army Air Forces and the U.S. Marine Corps and Navy, as well as the Royal Air Force under the Lend-Lease program. The OY-1 was developed by the Stinson division of the Vultee Aircraft Company, also known as Consolidated Vultee, in 1943. The OY-1 Sentinel was loosely derived from the civilian Stinson Model 105 Voyager. It was specifically designed for military use and made its first flight in 1941. This particular aircraft has a 65 horsepower Continental engine in it. Now while the Sentinel's warming up, Heather's gonna turn over the FI-156 Fieseler Storch German reconnaissance and evacuation aircraft. Some of you might remember Mussolini, and so it's this type of aircraft that was sent out to rescue Mussolini from being in jail towards the end of World War II. Mussolini pleaded with Hitler to come save him from this makeshift jail. And the only way they could get him out quickly and safely was with this short takeoff and landing aircraft, the Storch. And of course, he was picked up, brought down to the lowlands, and then he tried to escape. And we knew what happened with Mussolini. He was discovered, and then people didn't take kindly on him after being found. Nice, that's starting up. This Storch was first designed in the mid-30s from a trainer touring design known as the F5. The Storch was really intended to be a civilian sport aircraft. However, it wasn't long before Germany became embroiled in World War II, and almost all of the 2,900 Storches built were put into military service. The really amazing thing, and I hope you guys have a chance to see this when the plane lands, is the engine in this. It's an inverted V12. So this is an Argus engine. This Argus engine produces about 1,200 horsepower. There we go. OY-1 Sentinel's peeling out. Both these aircraft, but particularly the Storch, is capable of taking off in less than 200 feet. I'll move out of the way a little bit so I'm not standing in the way of pictures. You remember when we were watching the planes take off, they were taking off somewhere about right yonder, right over there. Watch these planes as they roll down the field. They'll be off the ground in what seems like about 50 feet. It's really unusual. Again, I feel a little bit of a headwind. Very nice. So when they get into position and they're flying overhead, I think they're going to try and do some maneuvers, which is basically zero movement maneuvers. So we'll probably be able to hang the plane right over us. It should be quite a sight. The question is, why is the landing gear on the Storch high? It's actually high and wide. And the reason for that is when the plane lands, the shock comes up through the aircraft. Because the aircraft is so light, you can't mount the landing gear under the fuselage. It has to go to the actual wing stems, to where the wing spar is. And that's where it takes most of the impact, is through its wing spar. And that's why you see the landing gear go right up to the wing. All right, here goes the OY-1 Sentinel. Already off the ground. Here comes the Storch. Keep an eye on this aircraft. Look at that. Came right off the ground. Looks like she has her flaps extended. There's the OY-1 coming around the pattern here. So the Sentinel served with distinction in various theaters of World War II. Primarily Italy, Western Europe, the Pacific, China, India, Burma theaters. It played a vital role in supporting ground operations, providing vital intelligence, and conducting search and rescue missions. Even after the war, the OY-1 Sentinel continued to serve in the military as well as civilian roles, such as forest fire spotting and aerial surveying. Oh, it's really cooking along. Sounded like Rob had the throttle open. Here comes the Storch. Now we're going to try and exhibit a little bit of our slow flying maneuverability. So watch as Heather comes up. She's going to point that nose right into the wind. So she's looking at her wind indicators and feeling the aircraft to find out exactly where the head of the wind is coming from. Testing it out a little bit. And because this Storch aircraft was such a capable flyer and the ability to land in such short runways, there is a female pilot by the name of Hanna Reich. And towards the end of World War II, the Russians were on the outskirts of Berlin, and Hanna Reich pleaded with Hitler. She said, "I'll come pick you up. We'll get out of there. You can hop in my plane and we'll escape Berlin." And she tried repeatedly to convince Hitler to go with her, but he chose to stay. And that's where he had perished. We'll be flying that plane again during our October World War II reenactment. There she is. She's going to bring the nose around. She's looking at her airspeed. Wow. These wings will actually fold back. You can fold them back to put them on a truck. Here comes the Sentinel. I see Rob's got the flaps out a little bit. Now he's feeling the air a little bit. Watching his airspeed. Oh, he's almost got it there. That's really good. Heather's coming around here. I see she's backed off of the power a little bit. Look at that. He's brought her right around. He's doing about 25 miles an hour, maybe 30. Puts the nose down a little bit to take up airspeed. And there he goes. Looks like he put the throttle up a little bit. He's scooting off. Heather's coming around. Watch how slow this aircraft flies. Barely hanging in the air. Having flown in this aircraft at this airspeed, it looks smooth, but there's a lot of moving. So she's on that stick, she's moving it back and forth, up and down. Because it's going so slow, she has to be reactive very quickly because of the airspeed she's in. Look at that. Just hanging there. She has her flaps out a little bit. Backing off of the power just a tinch. Boy, that's some nice flying. I don't know if you appreciate just how difficult it is to do that. It's really quite a trick. Bringing the nose around into the wind. So the cockpit, if you look at the cockpit, the fuselage, the glass, the canopy glass comes out a little bit so you can look straight down. They're going to bring the aircraft around. I think Rob and Heather are talking amongst each other. They're probably getting ready to come back around into the pattern. Oh, do you see it? Whereabouts? Oh, there it is. Ah, couldn't even see it. There goes the Sentinel. That's good. And testament to camouflage color. Can't really see it against the trees. It's a stall speed for the Storch is about 25 miles an hour. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Okay, Heather's going to bring it around. Breeze is a little bit stronger. Beautiful flying by Heather. I see Rob coming around the trees now. Here he comes. He's looking at that pine tree because he knows he has to go around that one. Here he comes. Another beautiful landing. Look at how short of a runway he used. Once he touched the ground, he was ready to maneuver into parking. OY-1 Sentinel, ladies and gentlemen, Okinawa survivor. One of the very few planes that has still survived that actually was part of the Okinawa battles. There's Heather going to try out that slow flying again. Very nice. Bringing it around. Backed off almost all of the throttle. So she's basically cruising down. As she's going down in elevation, she's using that kinetic energy. Coming around nice and slow. All right, watch around the pine tree. Now she's basically all off throttle. Power's reduced. Coming in. Wow. What a sight. Great flying, Rob. Not as good as Heather. Heather's an expert.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Heather's going around the pattern. Rob's getting everything ready to fly the T6 Texan. Here she is coming around. Watch the pine tree.
I don't see her.
Here she is coming around the pine tree. All right, almost all off throttle. She's watching the runway. Pull up just a little bit, and there she lands, just like that. And she has stopped, almost stopped. Look at that. I don't think I've ever seen an aircraft do something like that before. That's exceptional. She's going to taxi up, and Rob's getting ready to go. Keep an eye on our wingtips, gents. Make sure she comes in with plenty of space. Jim, back up a little bit. There we go. Just gonna fling it around there. Big round of applause for Heather Penny. Excellent, accomplished pilot. Now we have the T6 Texan. So remember we talked about the training aircraft like the PT-17 Stearman. So when these young men entered the Army Air Corps, the Air Force, the first planes they would typically train in is that aircraft. If they checked out in that aircraft, if they were able to get past training in that aircraft, the next phase would be determined if you're going to be a fighter pilot or a bomber pilot. If you're training as a fighter pilot, this is the next aircraft that you would go into. And so this is considered a fighter trainer. If you were to be a bomber pilot, you would train in something like the Cessna 78 that's inside the hangar, which is a 2-engine aircraft. The part that we'll really be able to enjoy specifically about this aircraft is its engine. Very powerful engine in it. It has a Pratt & Whitney R1340. This aircraft has a maximum speed of about 205 miles an hour. So you hear the undulation in the engine. What he's actually doing is what's called cycling the props. So you know how the props, you can adjust the pitch of the prop, and that's what he's pulling back. He's adjusting the pitch of the props to make sure that all the blades are functioning properly. Now you hear him, and he's going through all the magnetos. So he runs it up, flips a magneto, makes sure all the mags are operating well. Power's coming up. There he goes. You can hear the engine bounce off the trees. The T-6 Texan was the final development in a long line of U.S. military training planes that traced their roots back to the prototype NA-16s that first flew on April 1st, 1935. Altogether, over 17,000 Texans were built by North American and by foreign manufacturers under license. It's more than any other in World War II. So this is the most mass-produced trainer during World War II. Here he comes. The Texan and its relatives filled countless roles for the Allies during World War II. The single-seat P-64 fighter was used for U.S. pilot training, while the earlier BC-1 was sold to Brazil, Peru, and Chile as a frontline fighter. Australia used a two-seat and a single-seat Boomerang, which is similar aircraft, in combat. In the Air Force and U.S. Navy service, Texans prepared most U.S. pilots to fly these high-performance aircraft. And single-seaters such as the P-51 Mustang and the P-38 Lightning. Very tight turning aircraft. So after World War II, the U.S. Air Force built another 2,000 T-6s, which emerged as the new T-6Gs. And in Korea and earlier, the T-6Ds and Fs were used as forward air control aircraft in the Korean War, guiding attacks against enemy positions. These aircraft in the Korean War were also known as the Mosquito and were critical in mounting effective ground attack operations throughout the war. Later, T-6s were employed to combat nighttime bed check Charlie missions. And these are flights launched by North Korea. He's got his gear down. There he is. He's going to come up around the pine tree. Pushing on the rudder and stick just a little bit to bring the aircraft towards the wind.
Fella.
Yeah, all set. I hear him coming in. There he is around the pine trees. Nice. Back on the throttle. Nice. Great, great touchdown. Gently applying the brakes. Still plenty of room there. And there's Rob Collings flying the T6 Texan. Put it on the brake and come swing the tail around, coming back this way. So after Rob comes in, shuts down, we're gonna pack up the aircraft, get them ready for overnight. We're gonna do this again tomorrow. We're getting ready for our talk by Joe Peterburs, and he'll be talking in about 10 minutes or so.